Home for Valentines. We live up in Port Hope in the southern part of Ontario. There's about less than 16,000 people in our town. My mother owns a bakery called The Sweetest Heaven. We sell all kinds of treats from specialty cakes to cookies, chocolate, donuts, and coffee, just to name a few. We recently added charcuterie platters to the menu. I would say our shop is a popular hangout spot because it's busy from the moment we open at 10 o'clock in the morning to 11 p.m. at night. I'm 14 now, but I've been working as young as 10 at my mom's bakery. Mostly I give her ideas for her latest creations, and of course, I'm the #1 taste tester. I have no siblings, but my best friend Jillian makes up for that. We're practically sisters. My dad was a police officer before he died in a horrible shooting accident while on the job. I was 3 then. I still remember him. Even when I forget what he looked like, I have pictures in an album to sift through. The only thing I feel is fading are the memories with him. I was pretty young before his passing, so most of the moments are a bit fuzzy now. Most days after school, Jillian and I spent a couple hours at my mom's bakery. We helped with customers, did some baking ourselves, cleaned up, and sometimes made signs for special events. This weekend was going to be one of the busiest times of year because it was Valentine's Day, and we got a lot of pre-orders as well as customers coming in. It basically meant all hands on deck. It was a typical Friday after school. I went to the bakery, helped myself to a hot chocolate and a BLT sandwich my mom had left for me in the kitchen fridge. After I hopped onto the register and took orders for customers, while my friend Jill took care of cleaning the tables for patrons who wanted to sit and enjoy their drinks and baked goods. It was ridiculously busy, and I could see that my mom was stressing out in the backroom kitchen putting together pickup orders for Valentine's Day. She hired a second baker a few months ago after I had to talk her into it, because she's very particular in quality control of her work. But that was causing orders to not be ready on time and so many cancellations. It was not good for business. The new chef Gregory is super cool and studied at a culinary arts school in Mississauga, Ontario. He is young, but was faster than my mom at some things. With the shop's line growing bigger, I thought I could talk to my mom eventually into hiring a second cashier or waitress and putting on another register at the front to avoid the lines going outside and around the corner. I was cashing the next person in line, and it ended up being a frequent customer, Mr. Fletcher. He hated being formally addressed and preferred being called by his first name, Edwin. Edwin came in nearly 3 to 4 times a week for coffee and our assorted sweets. Sometimes we would throw in a couple new recipes, and he was always grateful. He would bring his newspaper and sit at his favorite table by the window, which overlooked a park that had a nice trail. People would ride their bikes or walk their dogs, and sometimes have a picnic. Summertime, the view was simply picturesque. Edwin's story used to be different. He had a wife named Penny, who was also a huge fan of our bakery. She would join him most days and would sit by the window and chat away. Her favorite was a London fog with an extra shot of vanilla syrup, and she loved it with a side of a blueberry muffin. They never bickered, and I never noticed if they had any problems in their relationship, and even if they did, they never publicly displayed it. My favorite memory was when Edwin would bring her for Valentine's Day, and they would have a very special sweets platter ordered ahead of time. He would usually drop off a bottle of champagne the day before, along with some appetizers that we happily would serve them. And of course, they dressed in their fanciest outfits. Edwin would pull out flowers from a gift bag, and Penny would act all surprised. From what I remember, he was doing this for 4 years straight, and she always gave him the same reaction. Then one day, Penny got ill, and she began to decline. She passed away shortly before her 82nd birthday. It was a tough summer for Edwin, but he still came in for his coffees and sat in the same seat by the window. When Valentine's Day rolled around, he would still make the same reservations as he did when Penny was alive. He'd bring the roses and set them on her side of the table. He ordered her favorite drink and placed a framed picture of her across from him and sat silently enjoying his food and drinks, looking up at the photo from time to time and smiling. It would be a heartbreaking thing for any person seeing it for the first time, but the locals understood, and they just left him unbothered. Edwin greeted me, and before he could even place his order, I knew exactly what he wanted. A large coffee, 2 milk and 2 sugar, and a bagel with cream cheese, sir." He laughed and told me how nice it was that I had memorized his order, and that in the last 62 years, he took his coffee the exact same way. Why change the recipe, right? I asked him about tomorrow's Valentine's Day plans because I had noticed he didn't make the regular reservations of assorted goodies and the champagne setup. He told me this year he was going to stay home. He was 85 now and felt that it's getting more difficult by the day to be going outdoors, especially during the winter seasons. I was saddened by his decision and tried to talk him into coming out, as we were offering a new menu item for the holiday, which was a romantic charcuterie board arrangement. Edwin chuckled, and he told me he would have to try it some other time. I asked him if he still bought the flowers and candy and will be doing the whole thing at his house. He said that was exactly what he was hoping to do. He couldn't give up tradition. Before he left with his to-go bag and coffee, he stopped to tell me something. There were 2 more customers behind him, so I helped them first while he stepped to the side. I asked Jill, who was bringing a tray of freshly baked apple turnovers, to watch the register in case more customers came in while I spoke to Edwin. He said, "I don't mean to frighten you, and I don't know how you feel about ghosts, but I just wanted to give you a message. I had a dream a couple days ago of my wife Penny, and your dad was in it. It wasn't scary. They looked the same as they were when they were alive, but it was welcoming and peaceful. Your dad told me how proud he was of you and said to look for something called Precious Moments 1995 and that it will all make sense." I looked at Edwin dumbfounded. I didn't know what to say back. It was weird of a thing to hear, and I had no idea what precious moments he was referring to. I said, "I didn't understand, and is he sure it wasn't just a dream?" Edwin said he had never had a dream quite like the one from last night, but he felt Penny was telling him to stay at home tomorrow because her message said, "Come home." That's why he felt he should just take a rain check and perhaps she would visit him again in his dreams with another message. I gave Edwin a hug and reluctantly thanked him for his message, even though I didn't know exactly what it was I had to find. Edwin left. Once we closed up the shop for the night, my mom and I dropped Jill off at her house, and we were talking in the car about the chaos of Valentine's Day tomorrow. She asked me if I had a special someone this year, and I told her how the guys in my class weren't even into me yet. Maybe next year. We both laughed. She began to tell me how surprised she was that Edwin didn't make any reservations this year, and if I had a clue why. I told her that he did stop by today for the regular, but he felt aged and tired. He just wanted to stay home this year. I purposely didn't mention what Edwin had told me because I didn't want my mom to freak out or cry and have that energy go into tomorrow's service. She's been without a Valentine since my dad passed. Even though I told her it's time to get back into the circulation of things, she wasn't interested. Her focus was on the bakery alone, and my dad was irreplaceable. So I guess I kept that conversation with Edwin to myself. That night, I had the weirdest dream. It was of Edwin. He was smiling and waving and said thank you and a couple of other things, but once I woke up, I couldn't recall it. I was confused and weirded out. Why did I dream of Edwin? Maybe it's because I seen him yesterday and all that talk about my dad and his wife Penny put thoughts into my head. That was the only thing that made relative sense to me. The next morning, I went with my mom to the coffee shop and started to help her for the day. I made sure the orders were ready to go, and we were smooth sailing. It was around 3 p.m. rush hour when I was serving a table of women that one of the ladies turned to me and said, "Did you hear about Edwin?" I wasn't following what she meant about it, perhaps because we were really busy and I wasn't focused on the conversation at hand. So I said, "What about him? I spoke to him briefly yesterday." The lady felt bad for me and said, "Oh, you poor thing, you don't have a clue. Apparently he died in his sleep this morning. The cleaning lady went in for her weekly duties and she saw him still asleep on the armchair. She didn't mind it and went about her business and took care of the place, but then grew concerned that he hadn't even flinched since she got there. Usually, when he wakes up, he acknowledges her with some friendly banter, but when she approached the chair and shook him, he didn't wake up, and it didn't even look like he was breathing." I paused for a moment. I was stunned at the news and overwhelmed with such sadness. But also, my dream from last night started flooding back to me. I apologized to the ladies and I said I would come back to take their orders. I needed some air. I walked past my mother into the back room and went through the door leading outside to the back of the building. It was freezing cold outside, but I was so flushed that I couldn't feel it. I whelped a bit, and then I took a couple deep breaths in. I thought back to yesterday when Edwin mentioned how he dreamt of his wife Penny, how she wanted him at home on Valentine's Day when he usually would spend it in our shop. Was it because home was a metaphor for heaven, that she was welcoming him so they can unite again? I didn't want to believe that because I've always looked at signs from the departed as being somewhat skeptical. I guess it's because I've never experienced it before. Not to say I didn't believe in ghosts or spirits, but loved ones sending a message from beyond was far-fetched to me. I shivered, and it wasn't because of the cold. It was that eerie feeling you get when you're experiencing goosebumps. And then I remembered Edwin mentioning my dad being in his dream also. A man who I haven't seen since I was 3 and never visited me in any dream came through to someone else trying to make me look for something called Precious Moments 1995, and that it would all make sense to me when I did. What exactly were the precious moments? A book, a note, a picture? And where would I have to look to find it? I turned around and went back through the doors. While I walked past, my mom asked me if everything was okay. I told her yes, I'm fine, I just needed some fresh air. The rest of the day was glum. Even though love was in the air for a lot of people, I wish I could say the same for me. The car ride home was a bit quiet. My mom said she heard about Edwin's passing, how sad it was, and how much she would miss him. Tears trickled down my cheek, and I quickly turned away to wipe it. I told her how strange it would be not seeing him ever again. My mom said in the beginning it will be, but as time goes on, it will hurt less, but the good times are what lives on. That's how it was for her when my dad died. She often has memories that she goes back to, so she never forgets him. Once I got to my room, I grabbed my PJs and went straight to take a nice, relaxing shower. It's true what they say. The mind does some deep thinking in the shower because it woke my curiosity to scavenge for the precious moments 1995. After the shower, I decided to try to flip through photo albums and check the backs of each picture to see if there was a note on it or something. There was no luck. I even opened several backings of picture frames. Most of me were a baby, but again, nothing. I then went to the basement, under the staircase, and found some old storage boxes lodged in the corner. I opened one that was full of cassette tapes and looked at the titles to see maybe there would be a match. But after the last cassette, I was left disappointed. Maybe Edwin's dream was half real and true and half a lie. Who knows? I was literally losing all hope until I saw a VCR player on the shelf in the tiny room. I stood on top of my tiptoes and pulled it down. I carefully lifted the flap of the VHS player and looked inside. Stuck in there was a videotape. The title was showing halfway, but I was able to see what it said. Precious Moments, 1995. My heart felt like it stopped for a moment. I was horrified and I wanted to scream, but I was also happy simultaneously. My body started to shake rather uncontrollably. I took the VHS player up to my room, being extra careful that my mom, who was now taking a shower, wouldn't catch me and wonder why I was carrying an obsolete device to my room. I didn't want to freak her out after her long shift by explaining the crazy few days I've had. When I got to my room, I locked the door. I plugged in the VHS player and connected the cords to my 10-inch portable TV. I rewound the tape to the beginning. My TV had a headphone jack, so I decided to use it. That way my mom, again, wouldn't hear a thing and question me. I hit play. This video had clips of me when I was a baby, somewhere up until the age of 3. They had family events recorded in there. You know, the early 90s definitely had some strange clothing and funky hairstyles. I saw my dad. He was holding me in his arms for many of these clips. There were times from Christmas, birthdays, me just playing with toys. My heart was beating faster. Could this be excitement or anxiety? But it's when my dad started speaking in the video and hearing his voice, I immediately covered my eyes and bawled. I had forgotten what he sounded like, and it was really nice to be able to experience that again. Hi, Joyce, or shall I say princess. It's Dad here. It's your 3rd birthday today, and I have to say that although you're growing up fast, no matter what age you'll ever get to, you'll still be my princess. Mom and I bought you that dress with those little heels that you're begging us to get you at the store. You may be still a bit too young for them, but hopefully for your 5th birthday, it'll fit you perfectly. I'm so proud to be your dad, and at this age, I can see how determined you are to do whatever you want, even when we tell you no, he laughed. But hopefully, that is a good thing when you are much older, because that kind of mindset will take you to some pretty awesome places in the world, especially working hard and not giving up on days that are also terrible and you just want to escape it. I'll always be here for you, and even if I'm away working, you can always call me and I'll help you through it. I love you with all my heart, sweetie. Have a great 3rd birthday. We have plenty more things to celebrate, and so far you've given me a couple of gray hairs, but I'm sure by the time you're a teenager I'll be completely gray, and I won't bother dyeing it because I heard the more gray you go, the more wisdom you have, so why hide it? He laughed. My mom interrupted his speech and he blew a kiss to the camera, and then the static appeared on the tape. Wow, I couldn't help but wonder. That was the last birthday before my dad was killed a few months later. He planned out an entire future in his mind, which he never had the chance of happening. There were so many times I felt like I needed him, his guidance, like a different perspective in my life, and a hug, but he wasn't there, and it hurt a lot. I took a brief moment of silence until I recalled his words from that videotape. He said no matter where he was, if it was work, and I needed him, he would be there for me. What if that was in the spiritual sense? Like, he may not be here physically, but that didn't mean I couldn't just talk to him out loud like some people do with God. Was that crazy? But then I tried it. Dad, I know you're not with us now, and I hope you're happy wherever you may be. I want to thank you for the message through Edwin. It reached me, and although I wasn't accepting in the beginning, I know it's really you. It is a miracle in a way, and I must admit, I'm still the persistent princess in most things I do. I promise you, I will never give up, and I hope you're proud of me. I hope you, Edwin, and Penny are living it up in heaven, if that exists. Also, I know Mom doesn't want to move on ever since you left, but please send her someone. She deserves to continue her life on this earth. I know she's scared to date because of someone replacing you, but I told her no one ever will. She shouldn't be alone. Thanks, Dad. Love you. Miss you. I heard the bathroom door open. I quickly unplugged the VCR and put it under my bed. I turned off the TV and bedroom light and leapt into the bed with the covers over my head. My bedroom door slightly opened, and I could hear my mom standing there for a few seconds before closing it and walking down the hall. I don't think I'll tell her about this for a long time. I just don't think she's ready. It will be my little secret. But one thing is for sure. Edwin made me believe in connecting and communicating with loved ones on the other side. I'll never forget him or the little gift he gave me of closure of my dad before he himself left this world. I'm forever thankful. One day I hope to see my dad in my dreams with another message. Hey Scary Story fans, I hope you enjoyed these original stories written and narrated by me. If you have a story that is fiction or nonfiction and would like it shared in the next video, you can send your submissions to suzannad.tv@gmail.com. In the meantime, sweet dreams!